Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Alex here. We're going to be covering parameterized tests or data-driven testing for Xray in Jira Cloud. And so this is part of our certification journey. We need to take 11, I don't have enough fingers, 11 classes. We are down to the last 2 here to be able to take the first of our 2 exams that we have to take. And so, yeah, we're just kind of documenting our journey, showing you and providing you some tips and tricks on data-driven testing. Not gonna lie, this is the first time I've ever done this one, so this should be a little bit more fun as I'm gonna be learning along. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and if you're watching in the replay, leave us some comments. Have you ever done data-driven testing before? And if you're in the chat, you all know the rules here. Just chat away, and we'll be answering some questions. All right, with that said, let's start the course here. I'm gonna zoom in just to make sure you guys can all see it on the mobile. And this should be a long one. This should take us about an hour. There's quite a few modules in here, so we're going to be here for a long haul. Let's jump into data-driven testing. Okay, let me see. I might have to zoom in just enough to be able to get these zooms button for us to work. So parameterized tests. Here's some of the training goals. Understand data-driven testing. Understand how Xray offers data-driven testing solutions. Learn how to parameterize tests. We have our content where we're going to talk about data-driven testing, Xray DDT concepts, test case definition with parameters, types of parameters, types of data sets, import data sets, data set override limitations, and some more. So what is data-driven testing? So it's a software testing technique that allows testers to input a single test script that can execute tests for all entries on a data table. So as the name implies, parameters, right? You're going to be able to like swap code. So we'll put like variables in place so that we can replace the variable with an actual value that isn't defined like on a table somewhere. So forget the usual copy paste of your test with a slight change here and there. With DDT, only one test is needed. With a data table, you will be able to run your test multiple times for each entry on such a table. DDT is particularly useful when you have a set of tests to run that have a similar behavior but require different data. So think of like users and passwords. Like you can define a different set of users with a different set of passwords, and then basically it'll run through them, right? It'll log in as a different users. There's a couple of key elements. We're going to have a test script. So this is a single test script with the parameters to be filled by the data table. We have the parameters. These are going to be the variables to be replaced by a row of data in each iteration. So think of the test, and inside the test script, we're going to have variables. We're going to have these curly braces. We're going to put code in there. And then that code is going to be replaced by whatever's inside this data table. So without saying much, the data table is created with the variable, with the values that are going to go into the variable. Sorry, too many V words for me here. And so all the important stuff will be in this data table that is associated to your test, which is then going to swap out those parameters. So it's kind of a cool way to basically be able to do a lot of testing, a lot of bulk testing, a lot of diverse bulk testing using like a template. And so this is how this would look, right? So if we did not have this data-driven testing, we would have to create 3 test cases here and hand jam, right? We would have to physically put in the usernames and the passwords and then, run it 3 times. Or we can have this username variable here with this password variable here, which is associated with the username and the password in this data table. And so the tool is just going to be smart enough to just swap them out and be able to put them in there for us. Hello, Alexis. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday to everybody. It is almost a weekend. In fact, I'm starting my weekend as soon as we're done with this recording here. So we're looking forward to finishing up as soon as possible. All right, we have some data-driven testing here. We got release team. Oh, no, that is me. Data-driven testing in Xray. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to have a $sign with the username and a $sign with the password. This is just an example. And then we'll have the result, and then we're going to create a table or a parameter with all the information there. So stay tuned, folks. This one is actually kind of cool. All right, let's, did it not test data? What do you mean it's not complete? Well, I'm not trying to complete the course. I'm trying to complete, I guess I have to scroll all the way down. Folks, if you're taking these courses on your own, make sure you scroll all the way down. Okay, so let's get into part 1 of these concepts. So we already talked about this. The only difference here is going to be the iterations of the test scripts with the parameters on the data set. So the test can have parameters to avoid similar unmanageable test cases. The parameter notation is $ curly brace, then the parameter name variable curly brace. So as long as you put that anywhere in your test step, you're going to be just fine. And so when the data set is previously defined, a preview of the data parameter is displayed. So if you've already created a table, you're going to be able to pick the column from the table and it'll just show them to you. So you've got a little bit of a chicken and egg situation here. So make sure you build the table first and then come build your script or your test so you can add the script to it. Now on the parameter side, so treat the parameter like a variable. A parameter represents a piece of your test script that varies on each iteration. An example of a parameter is the username. If you wish to test an app with admin privileges or with the user privilege, instead of creating two different tests, we have one test step with the swappable user, so we can test both the user and the admin privileges. Keep in mind that parameters are case sensitive and can have white spaces, so this gets tricky, folks. Be very, very careful here. Also, it is not recommended to use test parameters to create test iterations for distinct environments. When testing with environments, it is common to run a set of tests in one environment and then repeat them on another. Whenever using parameters, only test run is created, making it hard to match results and track them in a single. So there's some limitations here that you need to be aware of. Now for the fun part, the data set. So the data set is just a table, folks. This is just going to be a table that is going to be created in each test to populate the parameters. Data sets are where each parameter is defined and where the iterations of your tests are coming from. So when you're in Xray, we're going to click on this button here. We're going to be able to create this parameterized table over here. And let's go over the details of this, right? So starting at the top, this is going to display the total number of iterations to be displayed. So basically iterations is like how many lines are in here. Each line will be used as a data input for each iteration. So it'll do 1 with this row, then 2 with this row, then 3 with this row. We have new parameters can be created here. So we wanted to add a 3rd, 4th, 5th column. And then the data set's going to contain the parameter values. Some limitations. So the maximum number of iterations per data set is 1,000. The maximum number of parameters per data set is 20. And so you can have 20 variables, but 100 rows. That's basically what that means. A data set cannot contain duplicate rows. That's an interesting one. I wonder how they test that. So now we're going to jump into a video, and we're going to see this in action. So let's jump in here. We're going to click this button away, drop the mic, or drop the sound, go full screen. This is a quick one here. And so we are in Xray inside of a test, and all we've done is click on the data set parameter there. We're going to name the parameter. You got to give it a name, whatever you want. And again, at this point, we're building those physical columns. Okay, that's all we're doing, nothing special. We're just building columns in this table that we're then going to fill out with some additional information. And now you're going to fill it out with that additional information. So look how fast I can type. Click save when you're done. And that's pretty much it. Your parameter or your data set is now ready, right? And so now you can go create the step. And so this is going to be just a regular test step. But instead of putting in like a hard-coded value for username, you're going to now use the variables that we define in those parameters in that data set. And so now when we run the test, it's automatically just going to feed that information in. So as you can see, very, very easy to create your data set and then pull it into your test. My LinkedIn is blowing up, folks. All right, let's talk about test execution, because after all, this is kind of the fun part here. All right, so when you use the data sets, test executions are automatically created with the possible iterations. So each iteration corresponds to a line in the data set. And so we're going to have iterations are listed. So we're going to know, basically it's a run, right? So for every row on your data set, it's going to do the whole test. And so it'll do it for test 1, test 2, test 3. Then you can expand each one so you can see the actual value. So you can see what actually got injected into the test step. We can see the overall status, and then we can filter by statuses. And status can be set by iteration. So comments, defects, and evidences can also be added in the context of a specific iteration. So that means that you could potentially find a bug or a defect with the admin user, but not with the non-admin user. The iterations, several iterations are created per test script based on the data from the data set. An iteration of a test will have a test script with a given setup in line from your data set. So now let's go to a video where we're going to run one of these actual tests. In the last video, we set it up, but now we're actually going to run through it. So we'll get rid of this, mute this thing, and watch the video. And I love these 1-minute videos. I hate it when they're super long, but This is kind of cool. Download a Call of Duty game. I heard Call of Duty Battlefield 7. Is that what we're on now? I think so. I no, sorry, not Battlefield. That's a different game. Black Ops 7 did not do very well. I did pick up Black Ops 3, the last one that I purchased, I think, and then I did also buy Battlefield. So there's that. All right, stop distracting me with Call of Duty. Let's see. We're going to we've already set up our tests, right? We did this in the last step, and so all the tests with the variables are there. We're just confirming everything's there. Everything looks good. And now we're going to be able to go to test runs and create a new test execution. And automatically it's going to run through each one, right? So we'll be able to do one. Hey, we did a run for admin. Then we're going to do one for John Doe. And then we're going to do one for Jane Doe. And then for each one of those, we get to set whether it's a pass or a fail, or if you're executing. So each one of them can be treated as independent. It's like almost like if you ran 3 different test runs with 3 different variables. All right, and so that's super simple. If you find a bug in one of the iterations, you just simply create a defect, and it'll tell you which iteration the defect was found in. So that's very critical, because as you have this contamination of multiple iterations, it could be confusing where that bug was found in. So I'm glad that it tells you the iteration, and then you have your status as well. So fun stuff. Watching from Bangladesh. Awesome. Just not to get too far off topic here, but folks, Call of Duty has always given me motion sickness. I'm personally a huge Halo fan. I love Halo way more than I do Call of Duty. Okay, so I think, did we skip over this test case definition? I think we might have skipped this. Okay, so let's go through here. I'd be paying attention. Right, places available for parameters. So parameters can be added to the precondition, to the tests, whether it's in the action, the data, the expected results, or any custom field that you may have. You can add parameters by just simply doing the $sign. Once you do the $sign, assuming that you've done the data set so that the table already exists with the columns, then you just simply fill them out wherever you want. Now, executing various parameters, iterations are created considering all parameters, including preconditions. So everything for every row in your data set, you're just going to have a different run that you can execute on. Parameters should be limited to a maximum of 20 per test to avoid performance impact. So keep that in mind. And we got a question here. What is this? So we are talking about Xray. So Xray is a testing solution here for teams that are testing stuff, right? Whether you're testing software or hardware, whatever you're trying to test, whatever you're building, you want to test it out. It's always a good idea to test your stuff. And Xray makes it easy. It integrates with Jira, so all of our project management usually happens in the wonderful world of Jira. And so we're showing you how to basically merge the two. However, this particular session is focused on parameterized testing, which means we define these variables with information. And then as we're running through our tests are being injected with those variables so that we don't have to create 1,000 different types of tests. We can create one with 20 different or 1,000 different variations. So that's essentially what we're covering here. So welcome. So parameterized tips. So a parameter can have an iteration where they are undefined, and parameters can be repeated in the same test. So you can actually use the same parameter. This is key. This is important. What field are we talking about? So right now it's just a custom field that you create. So you basically create variables inside of the Xray portion of your test, and then you're going to add these variables in here. So it's kind of powerful. I like it. And it's an interesting way of doing it. So let's jump into the video now, and let's see how this is going to play out. Okay, again, we'll mute the thing, go full screen for y'all to see. And let's see this in action here. So here we are inside of a test. We're going to go and create our parameters again. So we're creating a page, we're creating a location. Again, we're doing the columns. At this point, we're defining columns. And we got a few columns, and then you fill it out. This is the iterations. Every row is going to be your iteration. So we're going to fill those out. Oops, sorry about that. Click on save. And now we're going to create our test. And here you can basically add because we've already gone ahead and done the table, we can just call them out however you need them. And so that way these $, curly brace, and that name is going to be replaced with whatever value it has for that iteration in the table. So you hit create, and then you can go to the precondition, and we can do similar things over here. So the precondition is going to have the variables too. So we can call those parameters. and we can have that context, that metadata inside of the precondition. So it's going to work in a few different places, and that's the main example that we're trying to show here, that it will show up in a variety of different places, all right? And so when you go to run, you can see that your precondition is going to have that same information as well. So go to main page, because it was a variable that we had in our table. So that's basically there to just show you where you can use these parameters at. Let's talk about this use case here for using parameters with undefined values. I've never been a fan of undefined, so it's interesting that they have this. But when choosing the parameter values, it is possible to leave the value undefined as none. So over here, you don't have to actually give it a value. So when adding to the wish list, we don't want to choose the number of items, so we can leave this parameter undefined. The test execution still takes this parameter into consideration as valid. When defining the test steps, it's possible to repeat the same parameters. So we learned that one already. So changing the parameter's name on a data set will not change the will not change it on the test case. So when you change the parameter's name, the previous parameter's name in the test step will turn red, meaning that it's not linked to an existing parameter data set. That's not going to be good. So we want to be careful there. A little good gotcha that you should keep aware or be aware of. All right, let's get into the types of parameters. We have a lot of different types. We have a few pages here, so let's cover those. So free text, so fields that are very flexible and easy to use. You can literally type in whatever you want. Or you have a list, which is basically a drop-down, so you can basically choose from a predetermined value. So the parameter list can be defined in 3 different ways: ad hoc, directly on the data set, defined at the project level, or defined globally. So I'm assuming that there's a Xray setting that we're going to be able to do at the space level and then at the global level. So the ad hoc parameter list is basically just a list that are created directly on the data set. So we've been using just the free text, but you swap it out. As you're creating the parameter, you're going to be able to define those values. So you're basically creating like a local drop-down select field. All right, so let's go see how to do that next. Now I'm assuming we're going to get into the project. Yeah, this is so predictable, but let's see. So we're going to create a new parameter on our table. And let's go play here. Hello. All right. But again, we've been using text this whole time, but now we're going to switch to list. And so here, think of this as just creating a local field. And you now get to define the values that are going to go into here. So this is helpful so that when you go and actually use the variables later, you're going to see that we can like pick from these options. So that way, this will prevent you from having to worry about somebody else fat fingering something, right? They don't have to typo it out. You can just give them the options. So it's a little bit more overhead on the admin, but it basically makes it so that other users don't make type of mistakes, which can really, really be a problem. Now let's take a look at how do we do this for the parameter project, right? So we just saw that we define it on the spot. Now we're going to take a step back into a space, and we're going to basically do the exact same thing, but at the space level. So let's close out of here. We're going to jump into watching a quick video on how to do this at the space level. So we'll go mute again, full screen. And so again, we're taking a step back. We're going into a Jira space, going into the Xray settings. It's kind of hard to see, but it's at the bottom of your space. And then we're going to the parameter value list. Here we're going to create a list item. So again, think of it just as a variable. This is a variable where we're going to then add the values. So you can add different values based on whatever is important to you. And so once you're done, click the create button, and this variable will not be usable, and we can, I'm assuming, use it later on in the process. Now there's one more option that we have, which is the global one. And so the global is, again, it's basically the same thing, but it's available to all spaces. So let's go watch a video on that one. Okay, so let's mute this. Here we go. So this time, instead of going to a specific space, we're going to the global app settings, and then we're going to the parameter value list. And again, we get to define these. So these, again, require a little bit more admin overhead because your Jira administrator is the one that has to do them. But once they exist, then they can be used by other teams. So as you can see here, we're going to, sorry, from the space here, we can also now pull in whatever global variables exist and just add it into our list. So this is cool so that you can define these globally, but they don't have to be used by your spaces. You get to choose which ones of the global variables you pull into your particular space. So let's talk about some use cases of various parameter lists here. So a possible use case can be a registration page. In this page, it's possible to create a new users by defining the name, the country, the residence, country of residence, the email notifications, and the user profile. And we can do names free text. The country is a global list because we want everybody to use the same list of countries. The user profile can be specific to the space, and then the email notifications can just be ad hoc. So you can mix and match whatever way you want. So let's go look at a video where we're going to learn how to do that. Ooh, lots of content still. All right. This one's a little bit longer, a minute. So let's go see what we're doing here. So we are now going to go and create another parameter, and it helps if I hit the play button, folks. Okay, so we'll go to create a parameter. We'll give it a name. We will hit the text, and that's the text one, right? That's the one that we've been doing. Here, though, we're going to go to the list, and we can go to the project list now and just pick the countries one that we have, and then it's done. We're done. There's nothing else we got to do, right? Same thing over here. This is going to be a list that's defined at this project level. So we would have already had that user profile one. And so it's kind of interesting. You got to write it twice. I would have expected you don't have to write it twice, but Xray, that would be an improvement in my opinion, where you just, if the field already exists, like why are you having to type it twice? Because that's an opportunity for typos and mistakes. All right, so you can see once it's all configured, you can basically fill out the information and just keep adding iterations. And some of them are going to be free text, other ones are going to be defined globally, defined at the space level, and then defined within the context of this data set only. So I like that you have those 4 options. You have some flexibility, and it just makes the process a little bit more customizable to whatever you particularly need. Now let's talk about the different types of data sets here. So combinable. Combinable and non-combinable parameters. So data sets are capable of generating the combinations of parameters for you. You can also choose to create them manually to allow for further edits. Combinable parameters generate all the combinations for you. You only need to define the parameter names and their unique possible values. So there's a section up at the top. Where am I at? Where is this at? So data sets are capable of generating combinations. So I really want to see a bit on this because this is not 100% clear to me. Calculating iterations. This is a preview of the number of iterations. Combinable parameters generate 8 iterations. So this might be a data center only thing. I don't know. Let's find out. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a video at some point. Let's see if it gives us that. All right, let's talk about a use case for this combinable. Why would you want to use this combinational stuff? So a possible use case can be a checkout page where the goal is to verify that we're able to buy and wrap items from different departments. So we will need to define what are the scenarios that we want to create a list of items from different departments, and Xray can help us with this task. So to create scenarios, we combine the parameters, ensuring that we cover all the possibilities. For the items list, we can use non-combinable parameters, since in this case, the goal is not to combine the parameters, but to have a list of real items that have specific characteristics. All right, let's watch the video because I'm hoping the video makes a little bit more sense. This text did not make a whole lot of sense to me. All right, and so let's see what they're doing here. It helps if I hit play, guys. We've done like hundreds of these and I still forget to hit play. Womp, womp, womp. So you're gonna hit create parameter and create a parameter. Okay, so that's not different. You can do price. That's another text box, okay? So far we're just creating random, regular parameters, nothing special here. We have a couple of empty ones, okay? Now what are we gonna do? Okay, so now we're doing a combination one. So now we're checking the checkbox. And we're doing it again. Oh, so we're multiplying? Yes, no, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Okay, that was interesting. So basically you can create, I like that. I want to see this in action. So you're creating a special combo type field That will then create like a bunch of different runs for you. Okay. So in addition to the ability to convert between combinable and non-combinable, it is possible to generate all possible combinations and display them as a list. So generate all combinations to choose only the iterations needed. So this is particularly useful when you don't need to test a particular iteration. We can create the list of all the iterations and just remove the ones we don't need. Say you have a new parameter and you want to add, but you don't need a particular iteration. You can convert the parameter by generating all combinations and then picking only the ones you're interested in you by deleting the ones you don't need. Okay, let's see. I'm hoping we get to see more videos. This was interesting. I've never seen this. I didn't even know this was a possibility, folks. This is why I'm not usually a big fan of certifications, but until you like force yourself to study for a certification or a test, you don't learn everything that's possible. Like I've been using Xray for the better part of like 4 years at this point. Not once did I even know that data sets were possible or that you can do this combinational stuff. So there's always something to learn at some point. Right. Removing iterations after generating all combinations. So in this example, we start by having a list of users already defined and combinable parameter for the page. Okay. When we generate all the combinations for the page parameter, having all the possibilities listed, we are able to remove combinations that might not make sense to test, like testing that an invalid user will not be able to log in. So you can just, okay, so you get some customization there. So let's watch a video. I like these videos. These videos help me describe better than their text. This is a quick one too. So we have some parameter here that we're building, and I feel like I click the button, it should hit play, but it doesn't. So we have a combination of parameters. We're going to tell it to generate all the possibilities, even though there's 6? I guess 3 for the existing ones and then 2 more. Okay, that makes sense. And then you can delete the ones that just don't make sense. Interesting. Okay, well, that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out a use case, but I don't know. Maybe they'll tell us. All right, so generate all combinations to create tests with specific outcomes. Another use of the generate all combinations feature is the ability to change specific data in the iterations. Listing all the possible combinations might be useful if there's a need to define the expected result for each combination. It is true that we often want to combine all of them parameters, but the outcome of each iteration might not make sense as a combinable parameter. So rather, the outcome parameter can be added whether generating each combination, allowing you to define what are the other different behaviors. All right, so let's see this in action. So say you have a new parameter that you want to add, but you need to define specific results or outcomes for each iteration. You can convert this parameter by generating all combinations and then defining the result on each one. Okay, so I'm assuming we're going to jump into a video and we're going to see what this looks like. Probably not yet. We're going to get the use case. Why would we want to do this? Why is this important? So in this example, we start by having a list of users already defined and a combinable parameter for the page. So we have 2 pages and we have 3 users. The results are not yet defined. We don't have anything there. They're all none. We then generate all the combinations for the page parameter, and then having all the possibilities, then we go and set the results. All right, now let's go watch a video on that. That sounds interesting to me. So let's go see how that works. All right, mute, big, and then, no, I didn't mute, and then play. So here we have 3 users with 2 possible page types. We're going to generate all the combinations, but the results are empty. That's the important part. The results are completely empty here. And now that they all exist, now we can basically say, okay, so here's what we expect the results to be based on the possibilities here. So this is powerful. This is, I mean, I can see a good use of this. We're 67% done, folks. We are almost there. Make sure you're subscribed. Drop a like if you're getting value. Importing. So parameters can be created one by one directly in Xray. This allows you to auto-generate combinations and manipulate lists. Parameters can also be imported from a CSV file. So if you like Excel, they got your back. So the use case here is you create a table, a data table, I'm assuming in Excel. You save it as a CSV file. You import it as a data set, and then your parameters are imported. Yay! So this is easy. So let's watch a video on this. This is cool. This is a useful feature, especially for you folks that love Excel. I mean, I'm still an Excel aficionado at heart, but I'm not a power user. So we've made a CSV file. We're going to open it up with text edit. And you can see that the values were there. It's would have been more helpful to show you the Excel part, but now you're going to go to import and choose that file that we just confirmed actually exists and has the values that we want. You click on open, and now our data set, which is currently empty, is not going to have automatically. So that way, if you wanted to, again, create them automatically, maybe somebody shared it with you, it's just a lot faster to get through them. Data set override. So data set override. So we can, the data set scope, data sets can be defined in 3 possible places: the test plan, the test run. And the data set can be used. The most specific data set will be the one used. This, I feel like this slide didn't tell me absolutely anything. Hopefully there's a video that'll explain something a little bit better, but just know that you can override your data sets in different places. Let's look at some use cases. Why would we want to override? So in the following example, we need to specify the data set for a given test plan. Even though the test cases has a data set, a new one will be defined at the test plan scope. So the data set is from the test plan. We'll overwrite any data. This will be the one used to generate iterations. So when a data set is defined for a test plan, but not for a test run, the test plan data set will be used to generate the iterations. All right, let's go look at a video of what this means, because again, this was a little bit more confusing than I would have liked. No video yet. Okay, so we're gonna do, see, Xray, this is the feedback I have to give you guys. Like, we cannot be jumping. I'm expecting the video, not a slide. All right, so we got another test case. So in the following example, we need to specify, I feel like this is what I just read. I feel like this might be a duplicate. Let's go to the video. We're just gonna, oh, one was override the test plan, the other one was to override the test set, or with the data set. So I'm assuming we're gonna follow the same steps. I'm imagining the video. You don't have to imagine more. We're here. We got it. It's just apparently 2 use cases that were too close to each other. So we're creating a data set, and as you can see here, it already exists. Cool. We're gonna go to the test plan. This is taking us to the test plan, and here's the data set. It's a different data set. Okay, different values. And we're gonna create an execution. We're going to click create, and then see the data set is not defined. So we're going to add a parameter. And so you can cherry pick whatever you want. This doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? I don't know why, but apparently you can, this video didn't clarify things at all for me. Well, all I think that happened was, so when we, at the beginning of the video, we have a data set with these values here: username, password, results, and page, and a bunch of users. Later, we have a different data set with the same columns but different values. And then at the end, all we end up doing is like pulling in users from both, or making our own. I don't know. I guess I don't understand what was the purpose of that one. Wrap up. Okay. We're at the end. Yay. So test run data set overrides the test plan. Okay. I guess it's just the order of operations. They're just trying to say, like, at the end of the day, you can override your data sets depending on whether you're in the run, on the plan, or in the test itself. Cool. Things to keep in mind. Deleting a parameter. Oh, I should probably make this big. Things to keep in mind. Deleting a parameter. Deleting a parameter on the data set will not remove it from the test case. The test runs will still be created, and the deleted parameter is still listed, but with its original name. Changing the parameter name. Changing your parameter name on the data set will not change its name on the test case and will not create iterations when executing the test. Things to keep in mind. Max characters for parameter value. This would have been helpful to have at the beginning, folks. 64 characters. This is a reminder. 20 parameters per test. Although it's not, must is a strong word. Earlier they were using should. So I would test this. And then the data set is capable of generating 1,000 iterations. You definitely want to be careful with this if you're going to be doing a lot of those combinational ones. Okie dokie. We made it to the quiz, my least favorite part of the day, but This is important. All right, so where can parameters be defined? On the test steps, on any test type. Ooh. What's the difference between this? Custom is definitely the first one. What does each line on the data set correspond to? It's the iteration. We're looking for the word iteration, so it's got to be that one. The same parameter can be repeated multiple times in the same test. True. I believe it's true. If a test has a data set and the test plan as well, which data set will be used on the test run? Test plan. I didn't quite understand that picture. We're going to find out. The test was at the bottom. The test run was above. It says override. So the test plan will be used. Let's go with that. Where can parameters be set up? Global, all three. Drum roll. Oh, we got them all right. Look at that. I knew how to interpret their picture. Click on next, learn more, check out Xray for more documentation. Start the survey. I'm going to give them an 8. And good. This was a good one. I like this one. I thought it was going to be a lot longer, though. I thought it was going to take like an hour. But it was good. No. Next, let's get my cert so my boss knows that I did my job. Not yet. Okay. Come on. Where do we got it? There we go. Let's get our cert so my boss knows I did my job. And that's it. So we are done with this one. So now we're going to move over to Monday. Come back on Monday, folks. We're going to be doing Xray governance and maintenance. And then we'll be able to take the test. So this is part of our partner exam that we got to take. And so we are almost there. Hope you enjoy this series here. And maybe we can do some real examples in a real Xray for y'all. So hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and we'll see y'all next week as we wrap up our Xray session.